My best friend and I transmigrated together. She became a princess consort, while I turned into a lynx. Me, help me, help me, help me. Best friend, hang in there. I'll go fight for custody rights. As a result, I was chosen by Her Majesty the Queen for demonstrating my ability to use the toilet independently. Later, my best friend nearly got killed because her husband rebelled. Best friend, save me, save me, save me. I jumped up and bit the villain's thigh. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The lynx from the same litter has terrible sleeping habits. While asleep, a fragrant big but suddenly plopped onto my head. Me. *% #%. Xiao shui, Zhu spoke in a hushed, almost guilty voice. I quickly jumped out of my nest. Ow, Zhu scooped me up and said, hang in there a little longer. Tomorrow, I'll go plead with Her Majesty the Queen for your custody. I asked. Why tomorrow and not today? You're a princess consort, after all. Can't you just ask for a lynx in advance? Zhu said awkwardly. Hey, the palace rules are strict. Just hang in there one more day. Fine, she's new here too. And her situation isn't much better than mine. I felt uneasy. What if someone else picks me? Zhu reassured me. Don't worry, that's impossible. I heard them say you're the defective one in this litter. The other lynxes all look like majestic, sturdy specimens. Only you're short, chubby, and scruffy with poor bone structure. No one would want you for sure. I stared at her. Zhu, this is a good thing. No one will compete with me. I thought about it and realized she was right. Zhu comforted me for a long time, saying that once she got me back, she'd figure out a way to see if she could change me back into a human form or something like that. Saying, I'm sorry to trouble you with his mouth, but his hands were honest, continuous like caressing. I have a national curse word I'm not sure I should say. Zhu and I traveled through time together to this fictional world. She became the Princess of Young, while I turned into a 3-month-old lynx. Fortunately, my sister Zhu was resourceful. Following the clues, she managed to track me down, and for some reason, I retained the ability to communicate with her. Now, she is my only hope. Keeping lynxes, cheetahs, and hunting dogs in the palace was a common practice. Although the treatment was excellent, still, if I had to accompany the Empress or others on a hunt, I might die. The next day, I arrived at the selected animal enclosure with 2 lynxes from the same litter. Not to brag, but my 2 brothers, though only 3 months old, already showed signs of being majestic and awe-inspiring. Clearly the same age, yet its shoulder height towered over mine. Wait, why am I comparing myself to a lynx? I'm human. I flopped onto the ground in a huff. Her Majesty the Queen had 3 sons. That cheap husband of Zhu was the second prince. Since this litter of lynxes happened to have 3 cubs, Her Majesty the Empress summoned the 3 imperial consorts to the palace to choose. Zhu reassured me that she had already coordinated with the other 2 sister-in-laws early in the morning. The eldest is the crown prince, who enjoys all privileges and would certainly not pick me, the runt of the litter, by tradition. I would likely end up with the 3rd imperial prince, Wang. I heard Zhu took the initiative to ask for me, making the princess consort ecstatic. Her Majesty the Empress hasn't arrived yet, so I'll take a nap sprawled out like a salted duck. Suddenly, the crown princess remarked that one may be frail, but it's quite amusing. The princess consort immediately looked over and said, indeed, it's rare to see such a stubby lynx. Looks just like a little house cat. Zhu became alert, glancing at me with meaningful eyes. Too adorable. Tone it down a bit. I immediately stood up. After waiting a while longer, I couldn't take it anymore, having eaten too much out of nervousness this morning. This lynx body's bladder was proving rather unreliable. While the princesses were chatting, I slipped out through the railing. What else could I do? I'm human. I couldn't very well pee right there in public, could I? I dashed to the privy, grabbed a stool for support, hoisted myself onto the chamber pot, and relieved myself in one smooth motion. When I turned around, all 3 princesses were staring at me. Oops, I forgot to close the door. The aloof crown princess exclaimed in a high-pitched voice, oh my, it's so clean. The princess consort's eyes sparkled. No wonder its fur looks shinier than other lynxes. Juju's expression was indescribable. We had an agreement. At this moment, a voice came. This little thing is quite interesting. Let it stay by my side. The three princess consorts were terrified. Why, your majesty? Her Majesty the Empress stood over 6 feet tall with a wasp waist and long legs. Her stunning beauty radiated overwhelming pressure. But my emotions were directly reflected in my fur. I was so frightened that all my hair stood on end. Help me, help me, help me, my eyes pleaded. Juju was also new to this. Facing the majestic Empress, her voice trembled. Mother, this one. I looked at her encouragingly. Well done, securing custody rights depends on you. Her Majesty the Queen probably found the smell unpleasant, as she came over, picked me up, and carried me out of the bathroom, a little intoxicated. Who isn't a sucker for good looks? Wait, with Juju, I can be human, but with the Empress, I can only be a lynx. Meow, mew. I tried to signal to the stunned Juju. The princess exclaimed in surprise. Even its cry is different from other lynxes. Me, look at you, so easily impressed. Her Majesty the Queen was also a bit surprised, but she remained much calmer, casually smoothing down my ruffled fur. She turned her head to look at Juju, raising an eyebrow. Something wrong, Juju? Nothing. And so my custody was taken by Her Majesty the Empress. Afterwards, I scolded her for being timid, while she scolded me for not being able to hold my pee. As I followed Her Majesty back to the study, I snapped out of the daze induced by her stunning beauty and regained my composure. Mainly because I was terrified. Her Majesty was decisive in battle and had a tough demeanor. The lynxes she had previously kept were all strong breeds for hunting purposes. My current state was indeed a considerable distance away from being strong. Wondering how she would deal with me, but she was swamped with state affairs. After returning with her, I only stayed for half a day while she remained busy as a bee. One moment it was floods in the south, the next it was military unrest in the southwest. I even ran into Juju's cheap husband, Prince Young. He had a poor relationship with the crown prince and, after a few defiant words, was scolded with the Empress's tacit approval. Seeing the situation, the youngest prince immediately flattered the crown prince with a few words, only for the Empress to rebuke him as servile and fawning. It was all about the Emperor's unfathomable heart, capricious in joy and anger. All afternoon, I curled up under her desk, not daring to make a sound. I was terrified that making the slightest noise would be the death of me. I kept lying low for 3 whole days, until I finally lost all hope in Juju. Her situation was even worse than mine. Anyone with eyes could see how much the Empress valued the crown prince. None of the other 2 sons could ever surpass the crown prince. To put it bluntly, it's just favoritism. As for Sister Zhu's worthless husband, he's simply a fool through and through. In just 3 days, he's already managed to provoke the crown prince 3 times. As predictably as clockwork, still trying to compete with the crown prince for the disaster relief assignment to build his own reputation among the people, lying under the table listening to him get scolded. I really felt like a lynx sighing in despair. Oh Sister Zhu, how did you end up with such a fool? Now forget about waiting for Juju to bail me out. I'm starting to worry about Juju herself. Prince Young was placed under house arrest, and I thought I wouldn't be able to see Juju for a long time. Yet she entered the palace the very next day. She claimed to be there to plead for mercy and confess her faults, but her eyes kept darting toward me, who was crouching beneath the Empress's desk. I was so moved I nearly cried. Sisters for life. The Empress was displeased with Prince Young, and the excuse she found to plead for him naturally earned her a scolding. Juju was scolded until her eyes went blank. Then, with shocking audacity, she threw the Empress a straight pitch. Mother, your Majesty, this. The Empress, Juju, mustering perhaps a lifetime's worth of courage, spoke those words. Your child has been unable to forget this disheveled lynx. Me, seriously. Sister Zhu, is this really the right time to bring this up? Your visit to the palace is already enough to show your sincerity. Truly, the Empress indeed narrowed her eyes. Help, seeing the Empress from the perspective of a young lynx is absolutely terrifying. After all the earnest advice I just gave you about urging the second prince to improve himself, it seems none of it got through to you, did it? Juju looks like she's about to piss herself, and so am I, her lips trembling, she stammered. Why yes, I heard, but, seriously, sis, do you think now's the time to keep insisting? I couldn't take it anymore. I lunged forward and grabbed the Empress's leg. The queen frowned, looking down at me, meow meow meow. The lynx's cry was already hard to describe. Normally it would just hiss when opening its mouth. I really did my absolute best to make my voice sound cute. Then I rubbed my head against the queen's leg, rolling around on the ground, doing the twist dance. Meow meow meow, noticing a glimmer of amusement beginning to sparkle in Her Majesty's star-like eyes. I twisted even more vigorously. Gosh, my butt's about to twist itself lame. Her Majesty the Queen came to her senses and said to Juju, "You go down and reflect carefully with the second prince." Juju glanced at me with a pale face. I told her with my eyes, "Mind your own business first. Don't worry about me for now. After all, we were childhood friends." She understood instantly and only then apologized before withdrawing. Her Majesty the Queen has begun to take notice of me. She assigned 2 eunuchs, 3 palace maids, and a court lady to attend to me. Even the comb used to groom my fur is inlaid with gold and jade. Juju, I've really made it big, I swear. Let's agree, you don't court death, and I won't either. Us sisters will just muddle through and cherish what we've got. That night, freshly bathed and fragrant, I was delivered to the Empress's dragon bed. I'm panicking. Her Majesty's bedchamber, much like the Empress herself, was of an exceptionally austere style. This made the already striking features of Her Majesty the Empress appear even more formidable. A palace maid came to deliver medicine, as Her Majesty the Empress suffered from headaches. No wonder she had headaches. She was still handling state affairs late into the night, moreover, while the Crown Prince had already come of age. Her Majesty the Empress was not yet 40. She must have shouldered the responsibility of bearing royal heirs at a very young age. The court lady helped her undress and prepare for sleep. Her slender fingers rested upon me. Was I moved? I dared not move. When the candles were extinguished, she suddenly let out a soft sigh. Jiao Jiao, who's Jiao Jiao? Why can't second brother understand? There can only be one crown prince. Oh, Jiao Jiao might be me. Her Majesty the Queen stroked my fur with gentle, rhythmic motions. In the stillness of the deep night, facing just a lynx like me, I thought she might share some heartfelt words, yet she said little more, and as she continued stroking my fur, she simply leaned back on the couch and drifted to sleep. Did the atmosphere suddenly turn lonely? I quietly tucked the thin blanket around her with my teeth, then lay down beside her. I saw someone poisoning Her Majesty the Empress. Well. Just because I'm a lynx means you don't need to be on guard. Her Majesty the Empress's breakfast was laid out on the table. She hadn't even had time to pick up her chopsticks when the court lady came to report that a midnight downpour had caused floods in the city outskirts. Her Majesty the Empress immediately rushed out to receive the reporting officials, leaving only a palace maid to guard the breakfast, and me. I was just marveling at how, say what you will, Her Majesty's professional competence was extraordinary. Disaster relief brooked no delay, not even enough to spare time for breakfast, and then that palace maid guarding us poisoned the food right in front of me. Before long, Her Majesty the Empress returned. Pausing at the doorway, she instructed the court lady beside her, "Hu Yao, you shall go personally." The court lady hesitated. "Does Your Majesty distrust Lord Gung? Relief efforts must take precedence now. Assigning blame comes second. Go urge Minister Gung not to let bureaucratic buck-passing delay aid to the people." Understood. Her Majesty the Empress returned to the dining table, massaging her temples in frustration. I first leapt onto the chair, then attempted with all my might to jump onto the table. I overestimated my little short legs. With a thud, I fell off the table. Luckily, there was a carpet on the floor, so it didn't hurt much. Her Majesty the Queen laughed. Me. She grabbed me by the scruff and ruffled my fur, saying, "What? Want to share a meal with your emperor, meow meow meow. I yelled at her. Her Majesty the Empress misunderstood and actually tried to feed me a spoonful of that spiked chicken porridge. Our Jiao Jiao loves eating chicken the most, right? The palace maid widened her eyes in terror. Could you possibly be more terrified than me? I struggled desperately. Zhu, when are you coming to the palace to be my translator? I'm gonna die here. The queen was both cultured and martial, so naturally she possessed great strength. The spoon was kicked over by me. Yet she still held me firmly with one hand. What's wrong with Jiao Jiao? She frowned. I struggled a bit, and she placed me on the table, a golden opportunity. I rushed over to the palace maid and went, rar, rar, rar. My cutesy voice act failed miserably, revealing my natural tone, but I couldn't care less right now. I shouted at the palace maid while stretching out my paw to point at the bowl of chicken congee. Jiao Jiao, seeing that she still didn't understand. I ran back and forth on the table, gesturing with all my might, point at the maid, point at the congee, then use my paw to point at my head. Fortunately, that palace maid was useless. When I extended my clawed finger, her legs gave way and she knelt. Afterward, Her Majesty the Empress rewarded me by ordering a golden chamber pot to be crafted for me, the kind with golden steps. The expense was charged to the Crown Prince's household, because this palace maid was sent into the palace by the Crown Prince's residence, and was said to be an expert in medicinal cuisine. Moreover, the palace maids and eunuchs serving me changed their way of addressing me from Jiao Jiao to Her Highness Jiao Jiao. But this alone wasn't enough. I heard that the other two lynxes from my litter had already begun hunting training. Her Majesty the Queen held me and joked, Jiao Jiao, aren't you bored spending every day in the harem? How about I take you bird hunting? It scared me to death. Could I endure that hardship? From then on, I practiced my cutesy voice and worked even harder on my twerk dance. It's no exaggeration to say that wherever I go, the palace maids cheer wildly. They simply can't help themselves. And the Empress doesn't stop them either, though the Empress herself would never lose composure like that. She usually just watches me do the twist with an amused smile. My position is secure now, no more hunting required. I started missing Zhu. Hey sis, I don't know if you can handle this. As luck would have it, the little troublemaker entered the palace. That day I was lying on the small jade platform Her Majesty had prepared for me, basking in the sun. When I opened my eyes, there I was face to face with the little rascal. To be honest, the second prince is quite good-looking, after all. His mother's genes are undeniable, and his father was a royal consort handpicked from thousands. Right now, the second prince is only 19, tall with broad shoulders and long legs, a pair of phoenix eyes, and a face still carrying a hint of youthful softness. He somehow seems a bit more charming than the crown prince and his third brother. He stared at me for a long time. And then, Xiao Shui, me, Sister Zhu, why did you tell him everything? The little second brother looked utterly confused and spoke again with great difficulty. The princess consort asked me to pass on a message to you, saying all is well, don't worry. 886, got it. That 886 at the end was to remind me these were her exact words. Not bad, Sister Zhu, even adding anti-counterfeit measures when relaying messages. I cheerfully meowed at Little Second. Little Second was utterly stunned, his face screaming, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Then he floated away with an air of nonchalance. With those words, I felt much more at ease. But that sense of ease lasted less than 3 minutes. Little Second and Her Majesty the Queen were quarreling. The general idea is that the palace maid presented by the Crown Prince was originally skilled in medicinal cuisine. How could she dare to assassinate Her Majesty the Empress? And now it's just being let go like this. You didn't even punish him beyond making him clean a toilet. The Empress looked at him. Have you made enough of a scene? Of course, the little troublemaker hadn't made enough of a scene yet. He dared to roar at the Empress. Mother Empress, is only the eldest brother your trueborn son? Are your second and third sons not your children too? I was scared out of my wits. After being her son for 19 years, how could he still not understand? In Her Majesty's eyes, A child who throws tantrums not only gets no milk but also a beating. Sure enough, Her Majesty's face darkened. Your elder brother is the crown prince, which makes him your sovereign, and you his subject. Last time you were placed under house arrest for this very reason, and now you've just been released. Have you already forgotten? The second prince remained adamant. Your son requests a thorough investigation into the crown prince's treason case. Well, damn. Her Majesty the Empress straight up gave him a resounding slap across the face. Then she ordered him back to continue his house arrest. Juju entered the palace again to plead for forgiveness. This time, Her Majesty the Empress was holding court in the Qingxin Pavilion, leaving Juju to wait in the corridor. It seemed Her Majesty intended to let her stew for a while. I scurried over eagerly. Juju, oh dear, you've lost so much weight. Your little face is all pale. This haggard look of yours breaks my heart. Wasn't she supposed to be living the high life as a princess? How did she end up worse off than me, a lynx? Juju reached out and patted my back fur. You've really put on quite some weight. I plopped down beside her. You didn't get dragged into trouble by that little second brother, did you? Bamboo looked left and right, and only dared to sigh when she saw no one around. I don't know what His Majesty was thinking, but his favoritism is a bit too much. Actually, I can understand him. If parents in our place were to emotionally manipulate their child like this, they'd be scolded to death. That does make sense. It was obvious to everyone that the Empress doted on her eldest son, and the Crown Prince had a bit of a "the world revolves around me" attitude. Quite annoying. Moreover, she genuinely suppressed her other two sons. From our modern perspective, this is undoubtedly wrong. We're not saying she had to treat them all exactly equally, but such blatant favoritism was unacceptable, right? Though Wang was still young, he had already given up trying. Only little second was often resentful. Juju sighed. He's just longing for a bit of maternal love, that's all. I grew slightly wary. Juju, this is their family matter. It has nothing to do with us. And don't say I didn't warn you. Pitying men brings a lifetime of bad luck. Juju's lips twitched. Juju received the summons to meet with Her Majesty. She behaved with restraint and rationality, humbly apologizing on behalf of the second prince. His Highness was also incited by others, out of concern for the Empress Mother. She decisively exposed those advisors in the young prince's residence who had been whispering nonsense in his ear every day. I can't quite figure out her game. His Majesty looked at her as if seeing through everything. Do you wish to pledge allegiance to us? Juju replied. Your Majesty is our mother, and this child naturally sides with their parent. That was well said. After all, she is the Empress, and the second prince was also born from her after 10 months of pregnancy. I looked up and noticed Her Majesty the Empress gazing at Juju with a complicated expression in her eyes. You are very good. Having you is a blessing to our family. She ordered the punishment of the second prince's advisors and lifted his house arrest. He also rewarded Juju with a peck of pearls. Juju looked somewhat surprised. Afterwards, I followed Juju, and His Majesty didn't stop her from holding me. She broke out in a cold sweat. What does His Majesty mean by this? It's as if he already knew the advisors of second young master weren't reliable. Your heart is as deep as the sea. Don't you dare presume to guess it. But what do you mean by that? Juju said, with the little old man acting like this. My days aren't easy either. I just thought, if only the relationship between mother and son could ease up a bit. I glared at her. You didn't come to the palace just to see me. Juju clicked her tongue. You're even using a golden chamber pot now. Darling, all right, that toilet design is pretty good. I got a bit worried again. You sold out the little boss's advisor. Is that okay? Juju didn't seem to care at all. No problem. He won't do anything to me. I could tell there was something off in Juju's tone. What did she mean by he wouldn't do anything to me? I couldn't help but ask. Juju, you're not dating little second, are you? Juju said that was impossible. She asked me, do I look like an idiot to you? Whether I think so or not doesn't matter. What matters is that Her Majesty the Empress probably thinks she looks like an idiot. That's right. Her Majesty saw her squatting on the ground talking to a lynx. Juju was so startled she stood up, her tongue still tied in knots. Why, your majesty, Mother Empress, Imperial, the Empress was very strict with her sons. But she didn't make things too difficult for her daughters-in-law. She said, "You may leave." Zhu felt as if granted a royal pardon, and scampered away in a flash. Her Majesty the Queen picked me up and cradled me in her arms, stroking me affectionately. Quite handy indeed. I have grown accustomed to it. I was just about to find a more comfortable position to nestle in her embrace. I heard her say to her most trusted lady-in-waiting, "Go investigate what the maternal family of the former young prince's consort has been up to lately." A shiver ran through me. Then I thought, Sister Zhu probably isn't even familiar with the maternal family of the former young prince's consort yet, surely. This investigation won't lead back to her, right, as I was thinking. Her Majesty suddenly asked the maid again, "Has Jiao washed her bottom?" Me. The maid hurriedly replied, "Your Majesty, Princess Jiao refuses to let us wash it." The Empress looked down at me and scolded, You can't clean yourself. Yet you won't let others wash you either. How disobedient. I just want to say I can clean myself up, geez. Besides, I'm human. How could I lick myself clean, or let someone else wash me? Guess I can only blame myself for being too charming. Seriously, the palace maid even recounted with relish how I wouldn't let them wash my bottom during baths, and Her Majesty the Empress didn't even stop her. Then I was honored to have Her Majesty the Empress personally wash my bottom every day. Sometimes I think to myself, thank goodness this is an empress. Ever since Her Majesty ordered an investigation into Zhu, my heart has been hanging by a thread. It wasn't until Hu Yao came to report that they learned Zhu hadn't had any contact with her maternal family recently. As for little Lauer himself, he had exchanged several letters with his in-laws. Her Majesty the Empress listened to the news and gave a cold laugh. She directly transferred the Prince of Yong's father-in-law to the borderlands to enjoy the breeze. Thus, it was as if the young prince's advisors had been rendered useless, and the in-laws who could have helped were now far away. Her Majesty the Empress then ordered people to keep an eye on the young prince's residence. Hu Yao returned to report, "His Highness the young prince is deeply melancholy, but the princess consort often stays by his side." Upon hearing this, the Empress merely remarked, "Harmony between husband and wife is a good thing. I have no idea whether that couple is getting along or not. The key point is that the little second son's multifaceted support has been cut off." Especially with Bamboo's opportunistic in-laws now out of the picture, he no longer has the resources to quarrel with the crown prince every day and make a spectacle of himself. I also breathed a sigh of relief when I was struggling to adapt to life as a lynx. I was 1 year old. No, this lynx is 1 year old. Finally, I got the chance to see my sister Zhu, because Her Majesty the Queen prepared a birthday banquet for me. By now, it was common knowledge that the Queen doted on this lynx, me. Though she appeared quite restrained, for my birthday alone, the Empress arranged a small family banquet, inviting her 3 sons and daughters-in-law, along with a few trusted ministers. To put it simply, the most noble and highest-ranking officials of the entire empire came to wish me a happy birthday. At the start of the banquet, everyone petted me all over. I felt like I'd lost quite a bit of fur from all the petting. The aloof crown princess remarked, "Jiao's fur is truly exquisite. So glossy and sleek, one can tell at a glance she's been meticulously cared for." The rather timid concubine also remarked, "Jiao clearly isn't an ordinary lynx. She has royal bearing." Minister A, between the brows, one faintly glimpses His Majesty's majestic demeanor. Minister B, even the 2 tufts of fur on its ears exude an overwhelming aura of dominance. Minister C, I've never seen a lynx with such short legs before. Now I realize it's because she was born to be waited upon. She's truly the nobility among lynxes. Zhu couldn't hold back any longer and burst out laughing. Everyone immediately turned to look at her. Zhu, since the crown prince disliked the attention-seeking second prince, the crown princess naturally didn't have a kind expression for Zhu either. "What, sister-in-law, do you think we said something wrong?" Zhu quickly replied, No, I also think Xiao Shui, Her Highness Jiao, has a very noble temperament. with short and adorable legs, that, seeing her in a tight spot, I hurriedly got up from the soft cushion. Amidst the cheers of Her Highness Jiao Jiao is moving, I rushed towards Zhu Zhu at the very edge of the crowd. Her Majesty the Queen looked over at this moment. Jiao Jiao seems to really like you, Zhu Zhu, under the envious and jealous gazes of the crowd, gritted her teeth and struggled to pick me up. Ha ha ha, your child has, a way with animals. Her Majesty's gaze fell upon me, and I immediately extended my claws to hook onto her arm. Well, my master knew I was happy now. Her expression softened. Then let the birthday girl follow you. And so, I recently ended up sitting next to the recently dog-avoiding Princess of Yang. Zhu Zhu hugged me tightly, refusing to let go. You've really become quite the big shot now. My life is indeed going pretty well, but there's just one thing. No one talks to me. It's so miserable. So I kept chattering non-stop to Zhu Zhu. Now I eat and drink what humans do. I've gotten used to walking on all fours, using the toilet while being watched, and being forced to. I was about to say forcefully wash your butt, but I held back because I still have some dignity. After muttering to myself for a while, I suddenly realized Zhu Zhu wasn't listening. Surprised, I looked up. Then I noticed her craning her neck to look in the Empress's direction, frowning tightly. Her Majesty the Empress called the youngest prince, also known as Little Wang, to her side for a conversation. A thought struck me. Zhu Zhu tugged at my thick fur, leaned down, and whispered to me, Xiao Shui, our second son has been idle for over half a year now. Have you heard any news from His Majesty? I pondered deeply. His Majesty hasn't mentioned the second son recently. These days, he speaks more often of the third son. Do you think His Majesty intends to promote him? I got angry. Zhu Zhu, tell me honestly. Are you in love? Zhu Zhu was shocked. I'm not. You're talking nonsense. I'm not. I stared at her. You didn't even say you'd get me out of the palace. Zhu Zhu pursed her lips. Well, you seem to be doing just fine. I was so angry I kicked her and ran away. What do you mean by living well? I'm human. How could I keep being a lynx forever? Do you know I practiced that cutesy voice until my throat was burning? Besides, I'd warned her long ago not to develop feelings for little second. No one knows better than I, who stays by Her Majesty the Queen's side every day, just how perilous these princes' lives are, especially that attention-grabbing second prince, while the palace hall was bustling with floral decorations and lively festivities. I took advantage of the distraction to slip away unnoticed. After all, this banquet was nominally held for my birthday, but in truth, the Queen simply used it as a pretext to play her political games with the princes and close ministers. I was strolling through the garden to catch my breath when suddenly someone kicked me right into the pond. The moment I got kicked, my first thought was, is this karma for kicking Sister Bamboo? Can lynxes even swim? That doesn't matter. What matters is I can't. The moment I fell into the water, I squealed in panic, but the more I flailed, the faster I sank. In my daze, I thought I heard Zhu Zhu calling me, Princess Jiao Jiao, Princess Jiao Jiao. Ah, Sister Zhu, save me. She didn't even notice me fighting with someone on the water's surface. Wah wah, my fur coat got soaked and became so heavy, and all this fat of mine is completely useless. I thought fat people were supposed to float. Finally I heard her panicked, cracking voice, Xiao Shui. Then she jumped down. I saw her sink too. Ah, my sister Zhu can't swim either. After a while, another person jumped down too. Judging by the figure, it must have been little Lauer. The younger brother-in-law tried to swim away with his wife right after entering the water. My sister Zhu swiftly kicked him. Younger brother-in-law, Sister Zhu, who couldn't swim, might have been relaxing earlier. Once her body loosened up, she suddenly lunged at me and yanked me over. I had already choked until I passed out. When I finally came to, I heard my sworn sister's earth-shaking wails. She was pressing on my abdomen and even attempted to give CPR to a lynx. I wanted to get up, but her pressing nearly sent me straight back into unconsciousness. The little second child chimed in from the side, forget it, let's just get another one. Sister Zhu let out a howl, get lost. At this moment, the concubine spoke softly. Second sister-in-law, why pretend? I saw with my own eyes just now, you kicked Princess Jiao Jiao into the water. Aha, this wife of Little Third is truly a dark horse. At this moment, Her Majesty the Empress also arrived, with a crowd of people surrounding them. She calmly ordered someone to drag Zhu away and had the imperial physician examine me. Little Second was so anxious he kept defending, saying Zhu had jumped in to save me. She didn't even know how to swim. If she had tried to harm me, why would she have jumped in to save me? The Prince of He replied, that's because I saw it. If I hadn't passed by, Her Highness Jiaoju would have drowned. The second young master was furious. Prince of He, even if we're enemies, there's no need to involve women in this. How can anyone be so brainless? Brothers should at least pretend to get along. Such things shouldn't be said out loud. Guoren said timidly, second brother, why would you say that? I've always respected and loved you. I finally regained my composure and moved my legs slightly. Her Majesty the Empress noticed immediately and commanded, everyone, step back. She walked up to me and asked in front of everyone, Jiao Jiao, who harmed you? Everyone was dumbfounded. Little Third whispered, Mother Empress, it's just a lynx. Besides, Jiahe saw it was second sister-in-law who. I struggled to get up, then I started to go mad. Growling, it charged over and bit the Princess Consort's leg. Instantly, chaos erupted. The Princess Consort let out a scream and kicked at me. She ended up not kicking me, and instead I managed to bite her leg. I didn't linger in the fight. After biting her twice, I rushed back to hug my sister Zhu. Zhu was crying her eyes out. Xiao Shui, you're not dead, I said. Not that easy, just swallowed a bit of water, that's all. But could you hold me a little gentler? You're practically strangling me. The Princess Consort was still wailing like a banshee because I'd bitten her until she bled. It wasn't until Her Majesty the Empress stood before her, that gloomy expression instantly silencing her cries. The Prince Consort and his wife were truly putting on an impeccable act. Her Majesty the Queen had repeatedly scolded Prince He as cowardly and timid, but she generally had no major issues with him and gradually entrusted him with some relatively important duties. If not for this sudden attempt to harm an adorable little lynx, they might have truly deceived us all along. She probably never expected a lynx could speak up for itself. Her Majesty didn't lay a hand on the terrified Princess Consort but promptly rewarded the third prince with a loving slap across the face, and stripped him of all his official positions, ordering him to return home under house arrest. That night, Her Majesty the Empress had not yet slept. By midnight, imperial physicians took turns entering the bedchamber to examine me. At this moment, the Empress's most trusted advisor, Lord Hu Yao, reappeared and quietly reported the situation to Her Majesty. Finally, Her Majesty the Empress sneered coldly, a barking dog seldom bites. The third one has done quite well. Only then did I realize the youngest had been scheming against the second-born all along. Ah, my sister Zhu must have sensed it. That's why she paid extra attention to Little Third during the banquet. Her Majesty the Empress instructed Hu Yao, have the imperial physician visit the young prince's residence first thing tomorrow morning. Once the Princess Consort has recovered, have her come to the palace to pay her respects. Hu Yao acknowledged the order. After some thought, Her Majesty the Empress added another instruction, recall the second prince to the Ministry of War. I lay on the bed, lifting my head to glance at her. I also knew of her troubles. Our dynasty faced constant internal and external crises. Without a strong ruler, the nation would surely weaken. In truth, though Her Majesty the Empress appeared stern and cold, she had never once reproached her children for being troublesome. It seems she was fully aware that maintaining balance among her ministers was also a challenge she, as emperor, had to face. I feel quite guilty, because I always dwell on my own difficulties as a lynx, always expect Sister Zhu to bail me out, or worry about her being love-struck. But in truth, who lives without worries? Tonight feels very strange. After everyone had withdrawn, Her Majesty the Empress stroked my fur and whispered to me, I know you feel wronged in your heart, but I cannot recklessly deal with her either. I looked up in surprise. Her Majesty the Empress disliked idle chatter, yet at this moment, her gaze was uncharacteristically gentle. She said, today was supposed to be your birthday. I had planned to celebrate it properly for you. But who would have thought those people would ruin it? I thought to myself, could this not be her true intention? I'll make it up to you later, but we won't call them back. What a bunch of killjoys. Just pick a few palace maids you like. If you fancy the young princess, I'll have her summoned for you too. This was the first time I'd heard Her Majesty the Empress chatter on like this. She kept murmuring until, with a yawn, she fell asleep. I silently held the blanket in my mouth and covered her with it. Her Majesty the Queen suddenly opened her eyes. Me, she suddenly exclaimed excitedly, you little Lynx spirit. He suddenly grabbed me and planted a kiss. Ah! Who can understand this feeling? Has my Majesty been suddenly possessed by someone else? A few days later, Juju entered the palace. This was the first time Her Majesty the Queen had summoned her alone, and I immediately ran to Nestle in her embrace. Her Majesty smiled. Lord Hu Yao had always been the Queen's spokesperson. She immediately laughed and said, strangely enough, although Princess Jiajiao has only met the Princess Consort a few times, she's always held her in high regard. Juju said cautiously, your child also likes Princess Jiajiao very much. I looked at her with a pained heart. In such a short time, my sister Zhu has become timid, the light gone from her eyes, the Empress said. Since Jiajiao likes you, you may enter the palace more often to keep her company. Sister Zhu exclaimed in delight. Yes, thank you, Mother Empress. From then on, Sister Zhu often came to the palace to keep me company. Her Majesty the Empress observed her for a while and, feeling quite at ease, frequently allowed us to be alone together. One day, I got diarrhea from sneaking too much fruit. Unfortunately, Juju witnessed my miserable state. Heavens, I've truly lost all face in front of my ancestors. Squatting over my golden toilet with my butt sticking out, surrounded by layers of onlookers, the Empress was away on official business, and her trusted advisor Lord Hu Yao personally led the team, his face stern. There was also a group of palace maids and eunuchs taking notes nearby. Princess Jiajiao has had diarrhea for the 8th time, watery. The stool has a smell, Juju. Lord Hu Yao said gravely, this can't go on, Your Highness. Can you still hold your squat? I pouted my bottom and looked at her. Lord Hu Yao extended her eager little paws. Let your servant help pull you up. Me, awo, Sister Zhu, save me. I'm already socially dead. I don't want to die even more socially. Juju grabbed Hu Yao's arm. My lord, Princess Jiajiao is a lynx with dignity. Hu Yao, Juju said sternly. From the look in her eyes, I can tell she doesn't want to be carried to the toilet. Hu Yao hesitated for a moment. But I'm afraid your highness's legs might give way, and you'd fall into the chamber pot. After saying this, she still stubbornly tried to come over and carry me. Juju blocked her again. No need. Her highness has a big bottom, it'll get stuck. Hu Yao carefully examined my lynx-like rear end and stepped back. My legs had gone weak from all the squatting, but the imperial physician's medicine finally took effect and stopped the diarrhea. I no longer cared who had washed my backside. I just flopped down and fell asleep with my butt still sticking up. I woke up to the sound of Sister Zhu crying. It's not that serious, Sister Zhu. If you love me, just forget what happened today. Honestly, I don't even want to remember it myself. She said, Xiao Shui, I'm sorry, meow. I always thought you were doing well. Though you're a pet, you're well-fed and carefree. But who knew you couldn't even eat much fruit? I said, yeah, my digestive system's changed. I won't be greedy from now on. Juju looked at me in horror. If we can't go back, what will you do? I can't accept this. Come on, where there's a will there's a way, Juju said. What if we can't go back? Are you going to never eat fruit again for the rest of your life? I always felt like she was hiding something from me. But I'm so tired, I don't have the strength to ask anymore. I said, then I'll just eat meat. Eating meat is good. After speaking, I drifted off to sleep again in a daze. I felt Sister Zhu holding me. She whispered softly, Xiao Shui, I will definitely protect you. Even if we become lynxes, I'll make sure you're the happiest one. Sister Zhu quickly became the daughter-in-law most favored by her mother-in-law due to her frequent visits to the palace. And there's nothing wrong with that. My sister Zhu was already the epitome of intelligence and emotional intelligence in her past life. Then whatever I wanted to eat, I'd just tell her, and she'd arrange it. At the very least, every meal suited my tastes perfectly. It's like going back to my past life. I always jokingly say she should keep me. But these happy days didn't last long. The crown prince fell from his horse at the hunting grounds. To make matters worse, he went hunting with the second prince. The crown prince was already beyond saving when they carried him back, following closely behind the empress with Zhu. I arrived just in time to witness that once proud and ambitious young man facing his final moments. He clutched the empress's hand. "Mother Empress, save me." Her Majesty remained silent, simply holding his hand while gazing at him intently. The light in the crown prince's eyes gradually dimmed. Her Majesty the Empress personally closed his eyelids, compared to the crown princess, who was weeping outside nearly to the point of fainting. She appeared excessively calm. She quickly stood up and walked out of the hall. While everyone was out, I tugged on Sister Zhu's skirt to make her crouch down. "Don't go to the palace these days, and whatever you do, don't plead for little Laur. The more you say now, the more mistakes he'll make. It's better to stay silent, and don't you dare think that just because the Empress has been favoring you lately, you can actually influence her." Zhu turned pale with fear. "But what about you?" I was frantic. What could possibly happen to me? A lynx? You'd better worry about yourself first. Fortunately, Sister Zhu listened to me. She rushed out and forced Xiao Lao Heir to kneel before the Empress to beg for forgiveness, not letting him say another word. Inside the hall, I only saw two terrified young people and the lonely figure of the Empress walking away. It rained heavily that day. In the end, the Empress ordered the young couple to be dragged away and confined to their residence, awaiting the investigation's outcome. She herself stood in the rain for a long time. For the Empress, even losing a son, especially the crown prince she had placed such high hopes on since childhood, could not make the sky fall. More terrifying than her personal loss of a son was the dynasty's loss of its heir apparent. She was about to face the court turmoil caused by this incident. Previously, the crown prince was the undisputed heir apparent, and he would act as regent whenever the Empress went on campaigns. In truth, though he could be somewhat disagreeable, the Empress's education of him had been remarkably successful. Not only was he exceptionally talented, but he also refused to flatter or curry favor. Standing firm in his own convictions, this is a crown prince cultivated through countless efforts and patience, commanding the reverence of all ministers. Now the Empress works tirelessly day and night, immersed in state affairs. She must intimidate the ministers despite having lost her right-hand support. I follow her every step, partly out of concern for Sister Zhu being implicated, and partly fearing the Empress might collapse. The little second child's quietness gave her space to think. She later said it herself, although the second child has no brains, they wouldn't be so obvious about things. While I breathed a sigh of relief, I couldn't help but wonder, was the Queen truly that strong, even in the dead of night, when we were completely alone? I never saw her cry, not even once. Hu Yao investigated thoroughly. The prince's fall from the horse was entirely accidental. At most, history would record it with a sigh about heaven's refusal to grant more years. The Empress's deliberate inaction gradually calmed the political storm at court. No one could tell if her mood had improved, but she did seem somewhat lighter in spirit. That day, Hu Yao came to report. Hu Yao spoke of the prince of he. Ever since his wife kicked me into the water last time, he had been sidelined, but that didn't stop him from using the crown prince's fall from a horse case to collude with officials in the court. Her Majesty the Empress eventually managed to lure him out, even uncovering all the officials who had formed factions with him. I lay beside them listening, feeling refreshed and invigorated. Ah, my sister Bamboo is completely safe now, truly worthy of being our Empress Majesty. Just then, Her Majesty the Empress casually asked, "Where's the second one?" I pricked up my ears again. Hu Yao said, "He stayed behind closed doors, looking utterly haggard." Her Majesty the Queen remarked that the little second prince had shown remarkable composure this time. acting so shrewdly it hardly seemed like him. Lord Hu Yao said, perhaps, to some extent, he still cherishes the brotherly bond with the crown prince. The empress turned her head to look at me. Jiao Jiao, was it you who tipped them off? I immediately performed a backflip for her. The empress showed a rare smile. Lord Hu Yao also laughed. Lately, we've been fortunate to have Princess Jiao Jiao accompanying the empress. Strangely enough, the princess, like a little doll, isn't as playful and mischievous as before. She always quietly keeps Her Majesty company. I rolled my eyes. What little person? I'm a big person. But hearing her say that, I realized I also provide emotional value to Her Majesty the Queen. Heh. That's quite satisfying. Just when I thought this matter was about to blow over, joyous news arrived from Prince He's residence. The Princess Consort, if he was pregnant, this would be Her Majesty the Empress's first grandchild. The Empress had been ready to take action against him, but now she had no choice but to postpone her plans. The court officials judge people by their status and treat them accordingly. Now that the Crown Prince is dead and the second prince remains silent, for the time being, Prince He stands unrivaled in influence. The Empress has resumed summoning Zhu to the palace. But this changes nothing. How could the favored Princess Young compare to Princess He, who carries the royal heir in her womb? It's been 2 months since I last saw my sister Zhu. My sister Zhu has grown even more haggard. I knew that recently the Empress couldn't control the prince's household, so instead she and second brother were being controlled by the prince. All I could do was comfortingly nuzzle her with my chin. Trust His Majesty, life isn't easy. Sister Zhu sighs. I told her to wait until this matter passes, then we'll see if there's a chance for us to leave the palace together. These days, becoming emperor is hard, but slacking off, that's easy enough. There's always a way to slip away. I've already checked it out. The place where the crown princess became a nun is perfect. It's nestled between mountains and rivers, spacious and peaceful. We could farm together there. After listening, Sister Zhu just said one thing. What about your golden toilet? Can you take it with you? I declared my resolve to her. As long as it's made by you, any toilet would be a good toilet. The Princess Consort repeatedly requested to enter the palace, but Her Majesty the Empress said each time that she should focus on resting for her pregnancy. It said she complained outside that the Empress cares more about the lynx than her own grandchild. Could Mother Empress still be angry with me over a lynx? In my womb lies her own flesh and blood, her grandson. These words were all reported to the Empress by Lord Hu Yao. The Empress let out a cold laugh upon hearing this. So young after all, after just a few years of pretending, you can't hold your composure anymore. The Empress made Prince He and his wife endure several more months of hardship. Finally, on that day, she summoned the Princess Consort of He into the palace. At that time, the Princess Consort was already in labor. Recently, my sister Zhu has been entering the palace daily to attend to the Empress, helping her care for the lynxes, but for some unknown reason, Her Majesty the Empress formally summoned her alone. This made Sister Zhu extremely nervous. Though she usually enters the palace casually after frequent visits, this time she dressed with great solemnity. That is to say, she adorned herself with all the jewelry befitting a princess consort. The princess consort was petite, with a round belly like a ball. Yet she moved swiftly and walked with an air of arrogance. Before the Empress had even arrived, she had already set her sights on me. Jiao Jiao must be old enough to become a mother now. No, the lynxes in our estate are exceptionally well bred. Perhaps Jiao Jiao could choose one for herself. Woof me, that lynx nearly made me bark like a dog. Sister Zhu immediately rushed over and dragged me back. But since I'm already a full-grown lynx, short-legged but well-fed, Sister Zhu almost couldn't pull me. She warned me, stay away from her. If she gets hurt later, she'll blame you. Princessy glared at her. Sister-in-law, are you cursing the child in my womb? Her Majesty's first grandchild. Sister Zhu ignored her. Truth be told, even my sister Zhu was nervous. Everyone knew how precious Princess He's pregnancy was right now. At this moment, Her Majesty the Empress arrived. Her Majesty had unusually changed into a crescent moon white robe. Strangely enough, this style didn't soften her demeanor. Instead, her beauty became even more striking. Both daughters-in-law went to pay their respects, creating an illusion of domestic bliss one might see in an ordinary household. I quickly ran over and crouched beside Her Majesty, letting out a plaintive meow at her. Her Majesty the Empress casually patted my head, then inquired about the former Crown Princess's condition. Hu Yao replied, "She's somewhat better than before and can take some food and water now," the Princess Consort said. "I made a special visit to see her, and my sister-in-law has now come to terms with it." With that single remark, she managed to offend both her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, because the late Crown Princess had previously voiced many resentful words. Her inability to move on stemmed from her hatred towards Prince Young for causing the Crown Prince's death, and her resentment towards the Empress for not punishing Prince Young. Her Majesty the Empress ignored her, yet she still wouldn't let it go, and even brought up the matter of arranging a marriage match for me. She said cheerfully that the lynxes in her mansion were raised so well, how strong they were, and they would surely improve my short-legged genes and so on. My sister Zhu was anxious, feeling both urgent and helpless, but I remained calm because I knew some secrets they weren't aware of. Sure enough, Her Majesty the Queen soon played her trump card. There's no hurry about that. The reason I called you here today is to share some happy news with the two of you first. Zhu quickly stood up and stood together with the Princess Consort. Her Majesty the Empress smiled and said, "I summoned the Imperial Consort some time ago, Zhu." The Princess Consort's face turned deathly pale in an instant, then she cautiously stammered, You. Her Majesty the Empress said coolly, "The two of you will soon become sisters-in-law." The Princess Consort's legs gave way and she nearly collapsed. Her palace maid hurriedly supported her. Her Majesty the Queen said indifferently, "As for the matter of Jiao's breeding, let's not bring it up again. As for you, since you insist on having a child, give me a grandson. Don't bring forth a useless daughter." Zhu looked at her in surprise, probably not expecting the Queen to say such a thing. The Princess Consort was so frightened that she went back and immediately had a child. The labor lasted 3 days and 3 nights, and it was a miserable ordeal, but she was truly unlucky, for at the very moment she was born, the Empress happened to be passing by with Sister Bamboo and me in tow. The youngest brother stood pale-faced to the side. He was still playing the emotional card with his mother. "Jiaha is young, with this child. She's put away her childish ways and only wishes to be a good mother, though her temperament has changed somewhat. Now she startles at the slightest sound, fearing harm might come to the child." Her Majesty the Empress nodded in understanding. "Pregnancy is arduous for women. That you show such consideration gladdens my heart," the youngest prince said with reddened eyes. "Only when raising children does one understand the hardships of parents. Your son. His words choked into silence as he couldn't continue. Zhu curled her lips at the side and muttered under her breath, "What an act." I quickly bit the hem of her skirt to tug at her in warning. "Did you forget what we agreed on? Turtles live for millennia, tortoises for 10,000 years. Cherish what little we have while we can." Just then, joyous news came from the delivery room. The midwife came to announce the good news, drenched in sweat. "Your Majesty, Your Highness, the Princess Consort has given birth to a little princess." A flicker of disappointment crossed Prince He's face. After all, in this dynasty, a son's right to inheritance took precedence over a daughter's, but he quickly composed himself, putting on an expression of immense joy. Just then, the Princess Consort's furious cursing suddenly erupted from the delivery room. "What use is a princess? Throw her out. My fate is so bitter. I nearly lost my life only to give birth to such a worthless little girl." As she spoke, her wailing cries echoed from within. Little Lao San's knees buckled, and he knelt down. The backdrop was his wife's piercing sobs. After a long silence, Her Majesty the Queen said calmly, "Is this what you call eager to become a mother?" The third prince was drenched in sweat. Jiaha might have lost her mind. The Queen added another cutting remark. "Crying like this, one would think the princess had died." The Queen ordered the newborn princess to be taken back to the palace to be raised. she fiercely rebuked the third son and his wife as unworthy of being parents. Without a moment's delay, she began suppressing the ministers who had gathered around the third son. After laying the groundwork for over a year, her first move indeed crushed them utterly, leaving them in complete disarray. Juju, who had witnessed the entire scene, suddenly realized, "I see Her Majesty is deeply concerned about the young princess." Were those words back then meant to deceive the princess consort? She was referring to the Empress's earlier remark that the prince and princess consort should strive to bear a son, not a worthless daughter, I replied. Indeed, the royal physician has already reported that, based on the pulse readings, the princess consort is carrying a daughter. This was indeed an extremely precise grasp of the situation. Juju complained to me, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? You had me worried sick." I rolled my eyes. "What are you afraid of? Didn't I tell you? His Majesty has everything under control." After this battle, the Empress finally gained a moment of peace. She was already 41 years old this year. After stabilizing the court, she seemed to collapse a little. She was already 4 months pregnant when suddenly the morning sickness became severe, to the point where she couldn't keep food or water down and couldn't sleep at night. Yet her willpower was truly astonishing. Whenever she stepped outside, she carried herself as if nothing was her most vulnerable moment in history. Would he choose to remain a filial son and subject, or take a step forward to become an emperor? Unfortunately, he chose the latter. The trap set by the Empress was merely for those willing to take the bait. Juju cried bitterly. I'd never seen her so heartbroken before. "I'm so angry, really, but still," I said. "Don't worry, judging by Her Majesty's demeanor earlier. She doesn't seem to hold any grudge against you." Juju cried. "I'm crying for myself. How blind I was. What kind of beast would rebel when a woman is pregnant and about to give birth? If he weren't the Empress's child, I'd really curse him as a son of a bitch." I was left speechless. By the time Her Majesty the Empress returned, it was already dawn. It was actually a suit of armor, wielding a long sword, with traces of blood still staining the fair face. Hu Yao stumbled and scrambled to keep up behind her. The reason was none other than Her Majesty the Empress being too tall. I was utterly stunned. Bamboo was also stunned, because both she and I knew very well, the Queen's swollen legs were absolutely real. She rushed back into the hall, where everyone had already begun bustling about. Some helped her remove her armor, others brought food and water, while someone else wiped her face with a towel. Hu Yao still stood nearby awaiting orders. She said, "Except for Prince Young, execute all rebels on the spot. For those holding official positions, hang their corpses for 3 days as a public warning." Juju and I trembled in the corner, shivering with fear, mainly because neither of us knew what to do. Then the Empress gave her orders. She was preparing to give birth. "Me, Juju, help. Is anyone going to do something about us? Just kick us out already." Her Majesty the Queen had a smooth delivery. Within little more than an hour of returning, she gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. Even twins, a boy and a girl. Not even I knew she was carrying twins. Who would believe it? Throughout the entire process, Juju and I were huddled in a corner of the inner hall, trembling with fear, forgotten by everyone, that kind of feeling, until the child was born. The Empress struggled to her feet. She suddenly caught sight of us in the corner. "Me/Juju, come," she said weakly. I quickly nudged Juju with my head, urging her to follow me over. The child had already been taken away by the wet nurse by this time. She said to Juju, "Go and watch over your younger siblings." Juju was startled. "Me?" The Empress fixed her gaze on her. "We trust you." Bamboo suddenly understood and walked away wailing loudly. I don't know how Sister Bamboo is feeling right now. As I crouched beside the Queen, for the first time in my life I wanted to stick out my tongue and lick her. Yes. I've never licked her after all. I'm human. But I wonder if a postpartum woman can let a lynx lick her. I really want to find a pet-owning new mother to ask, "Did you let your cats or dogs lick you after giving birth?" The Queen was sleeping deeply. Rather than sleeping, it was more like a coma. It wasn't until 2 days later that she woke up. Suddenly, her energy returned. She even began dealing with the rebel faction. The second in command was dragged forward. The Empress, with a heavy blanket draped over her knees, sat on the couch to receive him. At a glance, he spotted Juju standing beside the Empress and awkwardly averted his face. The Empress said, "How dare you look at her?
I kept her in the palace precisely to let you know that your wife and child are my hostages. Did you hesitate even for a moment when you led your troops to attack the city? Me? I stared at Juju in shock. Damn it, you were supposed to be dating, not getting knocked up. I was so furious I could have bitten her right then. The second prince said hoarsely, the victor becomes king, the loser a bandit. Your son has nothing more to say. But Mother Empress, don't you share some responsibility for my current fate? The queen narrowed her eyes. The second prince gave a bitter laugh. In your eyes, I simply don't exist as your son. Even when eldest brother died and third brother was crippled, you'd rather bear another child than consider making me crown prince. The queen said, you had your chance. The second prince didn't believe her. He whispered, you know exactly how you raised us. From childhood, you never showed third brother or me the slightest affection. I was just thinking, is it this damn loveless attitude of yours that tricked Sister Zhu? You absolute idiot, haven't I told you before? Pity a man and you'll suffer for life. To this, the Empress only said one thing, if since childhood, I gave you affection but withheld the throne, would you take it? The little second son lowered his head in shame. The Empress saw through everything, letting out nothing but a cold laugh. Clearly, it was your own ambition driving you, yet you claim it was grief over family ties. You may have fooled your princess, but you can't fool your mother. The Empress did not kill him. He was merely granted the punishments of eye gouging and facial tattooing, to be imprisoned for life afterwards. Sister Zhu knelt before the Empress and wept incessantly. The Empress only said one sentence, you're with child now, don't kneel any longer. Her words only made me angrier, better left unsaid. I turned my back to her in defiance, presenting my rear. The Empress reached out and poked me. You must forgive her, she's so young, mistakes are inevitable. I stared at the Empress in shock. Did she know about my secret identity? The Empress smiled and said, I've always seen how close you two are. Is that all there is to it? Juju knelt down in tears. Mother Empress, your daughter admits her mistake. After all, what's wrong with loving your own husband? When you married into our family, we taught you to respect and cherish him. She didn't seem to actually be angry with Juju at all. In fact, she kept comforting Juju, even saying, a young girl like you falling for someone like him isn't surprising at all. The blame lies with me for not teaching him better. Juju cried for a long time with her head resting on the woman's lap. When I saw this, I thought, all right then, consider yourself lucky for reining it in just in time. Juju later gave birth to a daughter. The Empress raised her child together with the little princess, the young princes, and the firstborn daughter of the king. All were treated equally. Juju became very diligent and began assisting the Empress in handling government affairs. She only told me later that she had actually remembered, in our past lives, we had already died in a car accident. The current situation, whether it's a soul transmigration with memories or something else, is unclear. At first, she didn't dare tell me because we were both equally lost. She was terrified of being human, let alone me being a lynx. That she ended up dating the younger brother was partly because she was blind, but mostly because she'd resigned herself to fate in advance. Yet whenever she said this, I kept thinking about what she'd told me before. She said she would protect me. I said, all right then, my goal is to become the longest-lived and happiest lynx in the dynasty, and you can be the most formidable female official in the dynasty. Juju replied, The Empress once asked Juju if she wanted to remarry, but Juju refused. Naturally intelligent, she quickly became one of the Empress's right-hand ministers alongside Lord Hu Yao. Later on, my sister Zhu actually became the right minister. She would always say to me sheepishly, it's all thanks to modern thinking. I'd look at her with shining eyes. No way. My sister Zhu was always the most amazing. I'm so happy she found herself in this era. As for me, I've never had grand ambitions in either of my lives, even when I was human before. I often joked with Sister Zhu that she should support me when she made it big. The current outcome could be considered getting exactly what I wished for. Extra story. The Empress had an exceptionally beloved lynx that accompanied her for 20 years before finally passing away. This was already the longest-lived lynx in the dynasty's history. The queen, now past 60, suddenly seemed as if her soul had been drained. Utterly despondent, the female minister entered the palace, requesting to take the lynx out for burial. The queen agreed. Later, when asked, the Empress Dowager buried the lynx beside the tomb she had reserved for herself. That very night, the Empress had a dream. In the dream, first her lynx returned, just like when it was young, a fluffy ball of fur. bouncing and hopping as it ran. As it ran, it suddenly transformed into the figure of a young girl. The queen asked in astonishment, "Who are you?" The maiden laughed, "I am your majesty's precious Jiao Jiao." The queen didn't believe it, even in dreams. She remained clear-headed. "My Jiao Jiao is a lynx." The girl walked to her side and crouched by her legs like a lynx. "I am Jiao Jiao. Didn't your majesty always say I was clever as a little sprite? Well, I really am a little sprite. I came from another world to accompany your majesty, and now it's time for me to return. Before I leave, I want you to know that I've always understood all the hardships and hidden sorrows of your life. It's just a pity I couldn't tell you before. Now it's better, I can speak. Let me tell you, in this life, being your majesty's lynx has brought me the greatest happiness. I only wish your majesty a peaceful life hereafter. And please also tell Juju not to grieve too much over my departure." The queen awoke from her dream with a start, only to find her pillow damp with tears. "Your majesty." The queen came to her senses in a daze. "Xiao Zhu, what brings you here?" The female minister whispered softly, "I feared your majesty might be grieving, unable to sleep peacefully, so tonight I keep watch for you." Hearing this, the empress felt, for the first time in her life, an urge to confide in someone. She whispered, "I dreamed of Jiao Jiao." She had turned into a little girl, with a round face and big eyes. She said she had returned to another world. She also asked me to tell you not to grieve too much over her departure. Juju didn't know what to say. Because she had also dreamed of Xiao Shui, these decades seemed like just a fleeting dream. Xiao Shui was saved from the car accident, recovered, and was even discharged from the hospital. In her dreams, she was still feasting on an extravagant fruit platter 1/2 meter in diameter. I originally thought it was just my overwhelming grief that made me dream of it day and night, but then the empress also said she had returned. Juju took a deep breath and comforted the empress. "She is a treasure bestowed upon your majesty by heaven. I believe she would want your majesty to live the rest of your life in peace and happiness." The empress looked at her in surprise and nodded. "Yes, that's exactly what she said."